research about coming out of prohibition. And,
Mhm.
several years ago, Edie Parker, a cannabis brand, did a take on the Virginia Slims. You've come a long way, baby. And I just really feel like there is this moment where the industry is starting to pay attention to the dollars that women are going to be bringing into this new market. Is that what happened in alcohol? Was White Claw or, some of these ready to drink beverages, were they targeted to women as well? Or was this kind of just like, this is a new innovation in alcohol and we're just putting this out into the world?
White Claw is such a great case study, and I'm like eager, and maybe I'll do it myself. I'm eager because I do think White Claw actually opened the door for all these cannabis beverages too. Because like White Claw created its own category, and then cannabis was able to kind of follow suit and sit on shelf right beside it. So White Claw, consumer insight there was somewhat targeted to women, definitely targeted to a younger demographic. So they were being quite sensitive to a younger generation that wasn't interested in drinking wine, um, was less interested in drinking alcohol and beer. And so, what was a product that could appeal to this kind of younger millennial, kind of like upcoming Gen Z target, that would be a good fit for them? So, it was, a little bit gender agnostic. I think they were actually surprised at how well it did resonate with a male audience, where I think there might have been more of an intent for it to be more split or more female, and it actually kind of like got adopted quite quickly and more broadly. But I do think White Claw is a phenomenal case study for having carved out and really establishing a whole new kind of alcohol beverage type and category that now you have so many kind of White Claw adjacent products, like you've got every single, Bud Light has a seltzer, Topo Chico has a seltzer, like they're all doing it now. And now you see cannabis beverages, which are kind of being positioned in a similar way or in a similar fashion. So yes, well, I do think cannabis beverages also have that appeal, and you're seeing that direct target going to a female consumer. There is, a rising adoption among male consumers as well, which is really good to see also.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not that familiar with these ready to drink alcohol, um, ready to drink alcoholic beverages. Are they kind of in the same low potency category that you would say like a 2 to 5 milligram cannabis beverages?
I I would, yeah, they are from an alcohol by volume ABV, right? So they're typically a low ABV percentage. So I would say if we're using kind of like ABV as the like milligrams comparison for alcohol, and for that I think it checks the box there as well.
Okay, that's really interesting. I'm gonna have to do a little more digging into
Yes.
White Claw and follow that. And then there's like Liquid Death. I mean, they're also just these non-alcoholic drinks that people have gotten more used to consuming. I mean, this is not super flattering to my mom, but there was like different points in my life I just haven't really drank very much. It doesn't make me feel good or whatever reasons. And I remember once my parents were having a party and my mom was like, "Ellen, when you don't drink, it makes people uncomfortable." And I was like, she's not wrong. Like, she's not wrong. People kind of would respond and be like, a little bit tighter around me. And I really feel like that has shifted. But I also now can I like to drink beer. Like I said, like I can bring a non-alcoholic beer. There are tons of cans of things. Nobody's really paying attention to what you're drinking. And so when did that happen? I mean, is that White Claw? Is that COVID? Like, what do you think if this is opening the door for cannabis beverages, I'd love to get a little bit of insight into how they did it.
Yeah. And you definitely see, you know, early adopters in what I would call like the, non-alcoholic, low alcoholic movement. Athletic Brewing, with their non-alcoholic beer, which is probably the leader in, the non-alcoholic beer category, but that has spawned an entire category of similar products there. And, I think, you're seeing from an overall trend basis, the younger consumers in general have started to take a step away from all types of alcohol. And whether that's beer, wine, or proper alcohol, that's been happening for the past 5 to 10 years. Like that group that came of age, that turned, drinking age about a decade ago, didn't do it with any interest in alcohol. And so they started to seek out some of those alternatives. And that's where you saw some of these brands see an opportunity. And your story is really helpful there and kind of, familiar of, okay, well, I guess, but I still want to be socializing. I want to, if I'm at a concert or if I'm at a barbecue at a friend's house, like I don't want to be holding like a plastic bottle of water. And I also do want to have something that tastes good that I enjoy. And so, Liquid Death solved the water problem. And then you had, companies like Athletic Brewing and Gia, which is one of my favorite non-alcoholic brands. That is wonderful. Betty Booze, who came out a few years ago, and Betty Buzz. Like, so now you see all these new options coming up, and it's very much rising to meet that need of a younger generation that is, actively stepping away from alcohol, but still wanting to have that moment of enjoying a beverage because, you know, drinking beverages together is so inculcated into our social fabric. It's like, think about all throughout your day. It's like, okay, you're going to be meeting someone for a coffee or a drink after work or going to a bar. It's everything. There was the article that just came out, I guess it was yesterday, the day before, about how the Gen Z really likes hanging out in wine bars. They don't like drinking wine, but they're like, the vibe in a wine bar is good. Like, I mean, I know, how cute, right? It's like, wine bars are cool, confirms Gen Z. Like, I was like, thanks, guys. I knew that. But that's a, and there's a wine bar in my neighborhood here in the East Village that is a non-alcoholic wine bar. So like, that is literally the target. So kind of like coming full circle to the original question, like, where did this all start? You do have, really started with, you know, alcohol companies and then companies outside of the space recognizing that this is going to be a sustained change amongst a generation. And there better be products there to meet that need. Again, just in the past month, you saw Diageo acquired Zero Proof. You saw LVMH invest in French Bloom, which is the non-alcoholic sparkling wine out of France. And so, those are some of the biggest players in alcohol making big investments into this category. Like, that is the strongest signal you're ever going to see that this non-alcoholic, low alcoholic, alternative alcohol space is here to stay. And it really started, back then about 5 to 10 years ago, and is just going to continue to evolve. And now you're starting to see that proliferate to everyone. This isn't just a Gen Z or a millennial. This is, everyone is starting to say and wake up and say, hey, there's different and better choices that I could be making for myself. And let me explore what those options are.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, I love being like at the start of a new cycle. It's so interesting and exciting to see. Let's get back to cannabis, which we've all been sort of dragging along at the bottom of, of a cycle for a while. And I do think, I mean, all the reasons you just explained are why I'm so excited to see where this goes and feel really optimistic about this as a giant shift. And then we get back to cannabis, which is like sort of just like in shackles a little bit because of all of these different designations and the challenges that we're facing at the federal level. And, hemp versus cannabis, it's the same thing, but nobody knows that. Like, what is the difference between the cannabis beverage that you buy in a licensed dispensary and the one that ships to your door?
Yeah. So basic difference between the two is, in a licensed dispensary, any product you buy within their walls is derived from marijuana. And outside of a dispensary, if you're ordering something online or if you're going to a retailer, it is coming from hemp. So let's talk about those two plants for a minute. So hemp and marijuana are very similar plants. They are sisters. So I'm going to take us all the way back to biology class in high school. If you go to your kingdom, phylum, class, order, remember that? So it goes all the way down to, they are the same genus. They are the genus of cannabis, and they are different species. So you have a marijuana plant and a hemp plant, and both of those plants contain THC. So
So
it
when you say marijuana, is that different than cannabis? Is cannabis like the high level and then you're
so yeah, so if we're being quite technical, marijuana would be the exact technical name you would use. It is, genus cannabis, and then species marijuana. Marijuana is not the Latin name, but I will remember the Latin name in a second. And similarly on the hemp side. So, again, like the nomenclature here, if we want to all be technically correct, and kind of my preference is, I use cannabis inclusively to include hemp and marijuana, saying that's cannabis. And then within that, you have two options there. So, they look alike, they smell alike, they taste alike, because they're that closely related, and they both do contain THC. Now, hemp, a lot of people might be familiar with hemp because it also has high amounts of CBD in it. That was really the purpose of the Farm Bill, and kind of like the original pursuit was to get all that CBD out of the hemp plant because it produces a lot. The marijuana plant has a little bit of CBD in it and has a lot of THC in it. So that's their relationship. So when you're going into a dispensary to buy a product, based on all of the federal systems that we have, all the state programs that we have, marijuana has to be sold within the walls of a dispensary, produced within that state, manufactured within that state, cultivated and grown on a farm in that state.